9999999. I have told you, this is not exactly what I wanted, okay? So please tell Multi-Voice Reviewer that I will get everything ready for his birthday. Oh yeah? Well, if you're not going to do it for him, I will come over there and eat your face. Ja? Well, that's good enough. Dankeschön. It's those people, those, uh, those people from Hollywood. They're just so snooty. Anyway, guten Tag, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Walter Van Dumbkoff, and I am the greatest movie director from Germany. And as you can see from the shirt I wear right here, Zombie Vampires from Hell. It was my greatest box office smash, but sadly you Americans think of it as a very violent and gory cheese fest. But the good thing, Multi-Voice Reviewer, he brought me over to be his director. So, say hello to Multi-Voice Reviewer's director from all the videos I've directed for him. That is right. I have directed all of his Multi-Voice Reviewer reviews. Ever since he saw me just being a struggling director, trying to make it big in Hollywood. Instead, everybody in Hollywood tried to kick me out. But Multi-Voice Reviewer, he has a kind heart, yeah? And he gives me a chance for me to direct this movie. And now it's my time to shine, yeah? For his... And, I asked him for me to make my appearance in his video. And he said, wait for his birthday, since today is his birthday. So therefore, I'm here to make my appearance, yeah? Well, I am Walter Van Dumbkoff, and I'm telling to you all to enjoy the show. And if you don't, I'll be coming after you and burn you with my cigarette. Yeah. So, enjoy this origin story. Before he became Multi-Voice Reviewer, he was a man of many talents, yeah. Anyway, take it away. Yeah, I gave you a chance, Walter. Anyway, thanks for your introduction. Actually, it's Walter. I thought I said Walter. 9. It's Walter. 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 Okay, whatever. Sheesh. Oh, in case you're wondering, this is iced tea, and I got it from and I'm drinking out of a Duck Dynasty cup. Anyway, folks, since you heard, that's my director, Walter Van Dumbkoff. And I'm sorry about he wanted to make an introduction. And for those of you who likes his character, he thinks he decided to get himself into the whole, reviewer thing, like I do. So he wants to do some reviews. If any of you people like my Walter Von Dumbkoff, please leave a comment down below. And he's thinking about reviewing cheesy foreign horror movies. And I'm also hearing that you're planning to make a Halloween special for my show. Yeah, since I remember you say that you miss those audio horror stories, those ghost stories that you get on cassettes and CDs, yeah? So therefore, I decided to make a Halloween audio drama special for you. And of course, for those you who want to know, it is Multi-Voice Reviewer Scare Crazy, yeah? And since he lives in Whistling County, I figured that he would deal with Swedish monsters haunting his county, yeah? I think that will be an interesting story for your Halloween special. Yeah, thanks. Dankeschön, Walter. Well, and I know some of you are thinking, right now it's June, and for those of you who know, it's June 4th, so you know what that means. It's my birthday. So, happy birthday to me. Can you believe I'm now 35? Huh. Year goes by and I keep getting older. But if those of you are still wondering, am I going to be continuing on doing some Asian month? Excuse me. I told you to adjust this properly. Anyway, am I going to be doing some Asian month? In due time. Right now, I found one movie I'm going to review for Asian month. But right now, I decided to do a little reminiscing. And for those of you who wants to know about my audio drama of Doctor Who, there's a third one coming up. And it's called Leap of Faith, and it's a really good one. It would be the third and probably the final audio drama, and it's going to show up after my birthday. But of course, I'm not quite sure if it's going to be the final because I don't know if my friend Cooper or Harvey's going to be writing some more scripts for my doctor. So, who knows? Right now, I'm trying to have help to get my own audio drama working. You know, the one where I'm dealing with Frankenstein. But anyway, folks. And also, one thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to do a shout out. There's other things I've been doing lately. I've been helping out with a friend of mine who goes by the name of Eric. And for those of you who wants to know, Eric is a good friend of mine. He's from Wisconsin. He's from Wisconsin. And, I mean, we both start working together and we put our heads together to think up some voice-over jokes. I've been doing a couple of voices for some of his videos he's been creating. And if you want to find out, I'm going to put a link in the bottom. But for those of you who wants to know, his YouTube channel is called Lionblade97. That's right. He is Eric, aka Lionblade. He has a heart of a lion and a blade to prove it. I thought of that catchphrase for him. And of course, right now we're also communicating each other on. We also have a fan page on Facebook called the Geek Bros Lion / Multi Voice Squad. And also, one thing I would tell you, he's also on Twitch, which I don't have an account for. But for those of you who do have Twitch, you can contact him on Twitch under the name of Lionblade97. I'm going to put the link on the bottom so you guys can contact him and contact his YouTube channel or his Twitch channel, or contact him on Facebook. Right now we put our heads together and do a sort of a Doctor Who parody. Except one thing I did here, I took the cut scenes from this video game, Sonic the Hedgehog 06, and we took Silver the Hedgehog. Yeah, that's right, we took Silver. Since one thing Silver have in common, Silver, he's a time traveler. Silver is a time traveler, so I figured I should do... So I talked him into making a Doctor Who parody of Silver the Hedgehog. And one thing we done is we took the clips. I'm doing my David Tennant's impression, making up any kind of single funny lines, and making it completely a Doctor Who parody for Silver the Time Hedgehog. Now, I don't know when... I mean, I already did the voice, and I also did the voice for his Sonic, too, since I can do a good Sonic the Hedgehog impression. So, subscribe to his YouTube channel and ring the bell so you can check out some videos that I've done and what he created, because he's really good. I mean, he does things I cannot do, and it's editing and mixing in some words and doing something really funny. And that's a shout out. And that there's a shout out to Eric. And Eric, if you're watching this, there you go, buddy. Anyway, Right now, for my birthday, I decided to do a little reminiscent for those of you who wants to know. I mean, tell you the truth, guys, I didn't always think about being a YouTuber and a reviewer. Believe it or not, I've been doing a lot of things recently. And for those of you who wants to know, here you go. For those of you who are wondering, before I got my first tablet with a camera and be able to make my own videos, I was also a novelist. Well, also known as a writer. I used to write short stories. And I'm gonna go through the stories and explain to you what it's all about. And not only did I wrote the books, I also drew pictures for the cover. Now, and of course, call me old-fashioned, but I never used a typewriter or type it down a computer, so I did the old-fashioned way. Took a piece of pencil and write them down in notebooks. The first story I've written is, of course, A New Evil at Salem. Yeah, I told you I do pictures of for covers. I also did some pictures of the characters. This is where I introduce a humble witch. You see, I wanted to make a superhero out of a witch since Harry Potter was written, so I decided to make a witch who battles against the forces of evil. So, therefore, I created Brenda Atkins, which that's my grandma's maiden name, Brenda Atkins. So I just based a heroic witch after my grandma. And in the story, Dracula, who now goes by the name of Cyrus Alucard, he starts terrorizing Salem by going after innocent victims for their blood and then breaking their necks so they will not turn. And he has a dog goes by the name of Zoltan, and there's also a witch hunter who goes by the name of Dutch Adams. To make a long story short, everybody thinks it's the work of a witch doing all this evil, but it's a vampire. And to make a long story short, it's an ironic twist because the vampire gets killed by a witch. And it was the first time I introduced Brenda Atkins, and it was the first book I've ever written, finished and written. And most of my stories are very short, so, I mean, I used to do long stories, but sometimes they exhaust me, so I do short stories instead. Now, my next story I did is this. The Witch's Destiny. Yeah, I was so driven into Brenda Atkins' character, I decided to do a backstory for her. And it takes place way back before America was born. In the story, she has an evil stepmother who goes by the name of Charles Mellons. And Brenda Atkins, her mother was killed by by an evil warlock. Her mother was killed by an evil warlock, so she was raised by she was raised by a good witch a good wizard who starts teaching her the ways of light magic. It's a pretty good story if you ask me. And then in the story, she's 13. I In old stories, most girls do their adventures when they're very, very young. So, and of course, Brenda Atkins was born in October 31st, Halloween. I just wanted to connect the witch and Halloween together. And on the story, she goes all the way to the New World, which is here in America, and meets a shaman who goes by the name of Saint Walker. And Saint Walker, who's a shaman, she starts teaching her the magic of our country. And also, after he passed away, Brenda Atkins saved her village, so saved St. Walker's village, so he blessed her, telling her that America will never allow her to die. So that's why she's sort of immortal in my story. And of course, it was time for Brenda Atkins to go one-on-one with her evil stepfather. Which it was a good story I've ever written. Now my next story I've written is this one. Death is Not Forever, which I changed it to Vamp Noir. It's a film noir kind of story, except there's a vampire in the 1930s who kept attacking people. So they hired a supernatural detective, Hector Dark. He's a British part human, part vampire, also known as a Dampier. He's a private investigator who deals with supernatural cases. Oh, and in case you're wondering, I was getting better on my drawings at the time, so this is Brenda Atkins, and this is what I created her to look like. And of course, in the story, El Vamp Noir, Walter Dark, he's part human, part vampire, and he starts to discover that LA is haunted by a vampire who looks kind of mysterious, who hides in the dark. And of course, he meets this. He also meets this his secretary who helps him out in the case, and he meets a couple of suspects in his stories. The cops think it was the count from from Romania, but it turned out. Well, I don't want to spoil everything for you, but it's a really interesting supernatural story. Now, next on the next story. Oh yeah. But yeah, the other story I've written was the longest story I've ever written. It was called Trimpier. Now, I got pictures for this one and not from the notebook. So, I'm going to show you. Brenda Atkins is in this. But here's the and I also created a prophecy. The prophecy goes, now, for those of you who wants to know what a Trimpier is a vampire who does magic. So, he's like a magical undead vampire. And the legend goes, whenever there's an evil Trimpier who is threatening to take over the world, only a vampire who is pure of heart and was raised by a witch or a warlock or wizard will be chosen to battle against the evil Trimpier and become a Trimpier himself and have the power to protect the world. Not bad, huh? And the characters in the book, besides Brenda Atkins, here are the other characters. Here's our hero, a vampire who goes by the name of Leon Noctis. And he has this whip blade, and he turns out to be the chosen one. You know me, I'm always a kind of guy who always seemed to like Asians, so I made a Japanese. And of course, during the time I was into the Twilight books, before I start noticing how retarded they are, but at least I created sort of a Twilight thing going, where Leon falls in love with a Japanese girl who goes by the name of Hitomi Hikaru. And one thing about her, she's a normal girl, but she's a martial artist, so she can protect herself. And he saved her life because a bunch of goons just knocked her out and about ready to eat her, until Leon showed up and saved her. And he's also raised by and he's also raised. I mean, he was also raised by the witch Brenda Atkins. And it turned and the bad guy that they're dealing with, he's a Trimpier. He goes by the name of Baron Matthias Armister, and this is him. He's a prejudice sort of I mean, he looks down on werewolves and humans and thinks vampires should rule the world. He became a Trimpier, and now he's trying to use his magic to turn every human being into vampires and eliminate the rest of the species. He has a gothy girlfriend who goes by the name of Ravenstein, but she becomes a vampire. Also has a right-hand man who goes by the name of Walter von Stroheim. and he runs an army of vampire armies. Well, these are his bodyguards, actually. His vampire troops. And also the vampire wannabe troops. Of course, Leon makes friends with a werewolf who goes by the name of Nathaniel Wolfgang. He's like Mr. Tough Guy kind of werewolf character. And here's his werewolf form. And he also meets a friend. He goes by the name of Simon Dark. He's the son of Hector Dark. And here's Simon right here. And he also has a secretary named Sonia the First. She's a vampire and becomes a love interest for the werewolf, Nathaniel. Oh yeah, and here's the modern look of Brenda Atkins. And of course, in the story, Saint Walker becomes her spiritual guide. And that's him right here. And they also go into a town where they meet a powerful sorcerer who goes by the name of Malik German. German. Right here. And of course, his familiar, Shifter. I create all of this, folks, and create the characters. I'm really good with caricatures and create backstories and such, folks. That was my only fantasy vampire story. I'm also working on a sequel where there's a group of necromancers. Those are sorcerers who worships the dead. And there's one who wants to bring back our villain. And of course, Leon shows up and also meets Brenda Atkins' old flame, who's a phoenix, which I'm going to get to it later. After I got really tired with the whole supernatural stuff, I decided to create something that's more reality, but with mystery. Another thing I like writing is mystery, so I wrote a series of books called Mystery Runs in the Family. The main character is him. He goes by the name of Michael Bogart, and this is his grandmother, Kay Rathbone. He has a best friend who's his neighbor, who's Mr. Tough Guy, and a brother who does computers, a sister who wants to be a basketball jock, a mother who used to solve mysteries since she was 16, and of course, a neighbor, his best friend's mom, who are friendly neighbors, who helps out the family. And I've written like 4 of these books. Right here. The first one was the death of a school principal. A principal who got ran over. They think it was an accident, but it turns out it's not. And the second one called The Rescue. I wasn't too fond of this story, but I just wrote it anyway. Where the girl that our main character had a crush on in the first story, she gets kidnapped. So now him and his family are now trying to figure out who's the one who kidnapped her so he can go and save her. That whole damsel in distress stuff, which now I find very tiresome and boring. And the third story I've written is more of a horror comedy. And it was called Mystery Runs in the Family and Full Moon, where it turns out the entire town has been terrorized by a killer they call him the werewolf because he attacks his victims like an animal. And everybody thinks it's a real werewolf because he's been attacking his victims like an animal. But it turns out that he's just a man. And why people think it's a wolf, because he wears this thing around his back. It's real wolf skin. He wears it around his back. He wears this mask. He has sharp teeth and wear these gloves with metal claws. And one thing, and a little spoiler, but I'm not going to tell you who's the name. A little spoiler about him. It turns out he's not exactly a werewolf, and what he is suffering, he's suffering multiple personality disorder. And his second personality is suffering called lycanthropy. Now, it's a hereditary mental illness where people think that when the full moon rises, they're going to turn into an animal, mostly a wolf. So in his second personality, he got that second personality and that mental illness from a trauma he had when he was 12. His father was attacked by a wolf and he got bitten by the same wolf and therefore started his trauma. And there's a lot of good humor in it and everything, so I put a lot of humor more than just terror. I guess when it comes to me and create something that's scary, I made it more humorous. And then the fourth story I've written was called Mystery Runs in the Family in the Evidence Manner. Now, this one I made it as a Clue reference, since you know I'm a huge Clue fanatic, and they got invited to a dinner party in a millionaire's house in England. So they go to England, and everything is completely Clue reference. They have a butler who is going undercover because he knew that the owner of the house, he's doing some blackmail, in which that was the whole theme about the Clue story. It's always blackmail. And the suspects here, I didn't draw pictures of them, but I drew them in these cards here. The suspect, now these are similar to the Clue suspects, but Major Lemon, I didn't want to be sued by Clues, so that's why I changed everything. Dr. Violet, Reverend Chartreuse, Lady Indigo, Miss Ruby, and Madame Blanc, or Blanc, which is French for white, so I made this one French. And that was the last one I've written, but I was planning on where my character got into a coma, and now it's focusing on his best friend, who meets a girl who turns out she's a sister of the one who knocked my main character into a coma. And those were my novels I've written. And also, oh yeah, that's right, I have another book. This one, now, ever since I got older, I kept having writer's block in the middle of my stories, so that's why I never finished them. But this one I've written called The Witch's Final Journey, where it talks about Brenda Atkins' final mission before she meets Leon and start raising him. It takes place before Leon was born. But on her journey, she starts to discover that there is an evil sorceress who is really evil, who has all the evil magic, all the dark magic and voodoo and sorcery and everything combined. And she is the most powerful, immortal sorceress in the world. And her name is Sandora Bestikoff. And one thing about her, well, you know what's worse than a vampire? A sorcerer who sucks souls from their victims. Now, I know what you're thinking. I got that from Mortal Kombat. But, so what? I mean, you can even think of a horror story involving a sorcerer who can suck souls from their bodies to keep their immortality. I did. Even in the story, I made it really creepy. She walks up to her victims, and then when she opens her mouth, her eyes went black, and when the victim starts to scream, her voice starts all muttery, and then Sandora Vistakov turned young, while her victim turned into a dried up mummy. And then after she was done, she told her servants to pick that up and toss it into the lake. So it shows how evil she is. and she haunts Brenda Atkins' dreams in the story. That's why that shows how evil she is. And that's pretty much what I've done lately. Well, besides the final journey, well, that was about it. And also my Case in a Coma. That's the name of the fifth Mystery Runs in the Family. I didn't finish it either. I just got blocked. But one thing I did do, I made a Halloween Kids book, and this is what I wrote into. And the story calls The Rescue of the Spirit of Halloween. Now, ever since I heard about Rise of the Guardian, so therefore I wrote a story about an icon for Halloween. And in the story, you have Jack-o'-lantern, the spirit of Halloween from Ireland. He's a human pumpkin who teaches kids to face their fears by pretending to what's scarier. Pretend to be scarier than what's under the bed or in the closet, aye? That's what he is. He turns into this character Jack, he was a trickster, but he's also, he helps kids face their fears. So therefore, he becomes a spirit of Halloween by becoming a human pumpkin. And of course, in the story, there's a girl who goes by the name of Emily Flinch, and she's easily scared of everything. I'm just about everything. And of course, the only person who's his enemy is, of course, Bloody Bones, the boogeyman. He's a low-class Cockney, evil being who likes to scare people so easily. So what he did, he kidnaps Emily French and takes her into the world of nightmares, eh? To scare her for the rest of her life and living in a world where nightmares exist, eh? So it's up to Jack-o'-lantern to go into the realm of nightmares and battle against Bloody Bones and save Emily and brought her back safe and sound. It is a really good story. I even put the Headless Horseman in the story. And one thing I did remember, if you remember my Grim Scary Tales, I even told the Rescue of the Spirit of Halloween in one of my Grim Scary Tales. And I'm going to put a link on the bottom so some of you can check it out. Hear me talk about my story. My Rescue of the Spirit of Halloween. And I was planning on doing a sequel with Santa Claus in it. And, again, blocked. But not only I did novels, another thing you should know that I also did comic books. Now, if some of you remember my first interview, I talked about, I'll get to the one I talked about on my first interview, but another one I did before that was, of course, the Spirit Stalker. In this one, the Spirit Stalker, now, he dresses like a detective, and all he does, I'm basing it more from the Japanese ghost stories. Ever since I saw the movie Grudge, I got really into the whole Japanese ghost stories, so I decided to make a hero who deals with this kind of stuff. And one thing that's different about him is that he is possessed by his ancestor. His ancestor, he was a valiant samurai in his time. And when he knew that the forces of evil, of ghosts who never rest and always keep cursing and haunting people, he decided to find a body for him to connect, and the only person he can connect to is his direct descendant. So his ascendant opened up the scroll, and his soul got into his body, but he only uses his body to battle against the forces of evil. So, with the help of his ancestor, he battles against hordes of ghosts and monsters from the dark world of Japan. And also, he has healing factor and everything. And the only way he can stop them He can reach into their chest and squeeze their spiritual heart so they can rest in peace easily. No lines, no wait. Now, this one I've done, it was more of a patriotic comic I've done. It's called Dead Presidents Save America. And I know how the world's going on now, and I think we do need that. In the story, we have a new president who's doing something horrible into the world. So now God himself decided to resurrect our two nation heroes, George Washington and Abe Lincoln. He brought them back from the dead. I know I'm getting religious and patriotic in this. They've been resurrected from the dead in order for one purpose: save America once again and put a stop to this new president's evil. And he has help from Natalie Eaglefeather, a Native American who sensed something's going on, and she decided to help him, and a black woman who used to be a teacher until she got fired for telling the true history, Marisha Todd. And the bad president I created is President Clinton. I mean, Kenton. President John Kenton. I'm just trying to think up a good name for this president, but also he does sorcery, necromancer. So he resurrected two of George Washington and Abe Lincoln's worst enemy, Benedict Arnold and John Wilkes Booth. And back then, I thought about being a part of DC. I'm still a DC fan, believe it or not. And I thought one thing it would be really cool if Teddy Roosevelt was Batman. How was that? He speaks softly, but he carries a big bat stick. I like Theodore Roosevelt. He's like the Batman of our history. And I also thought that the whole Blue Lantern Corps thing, I thought that the Blue Lantern Corps should have an autistic character named Jeff Optiman. He's a highly functioning autistic who joins the Blue Lantern Corps because he has hope in his heart. Why not? On fearsome days and raging nights, the sparks of our hearts our souls ignites. When all is lost in the war of light, look up to the stars, where hope burns bright. I got myself a Blue Lantern ring, and I always remember the oath better than the Green Lantern oath. But the one that I am more connected to is, of course, the one I mentioned. Zach Grimmer, the autistic hero. And it's the one where Zach Grimmer, he teams up with a Martian girl and an android. He goes up to outer space. He protects and saves aliens who've been treated pretty bad by an evil alien who goes by the name of Zordia, who wants to conquer the entire galaxy because he thinks he's better than everybody. And also Zordia, he also brainwashes Magion, the Martian girl's sister, Morgana. So now she's been following Zordia and thinks it's his right to rule the galaxy. Well, this is what I've done so far. And the reason why I never got them published is because, well, I live in a small town. So I'm trying to find a comic book company who would love my comics, or find an agent who is interested in my novels and would love to publish them. So believe it or not, this is what I've been doing before I became the multi-voice reviewer. And I'll probably continue on writing books, but right now I've been writing scripts for my Doctor Who and among other things. So, and of course continuing on doing my my reviews, and of course doing some voice acting for my friend Eric. So for those of you who likes my my videos so far, please leave a comment down below, hit like and subscribe, and well, since it is my birthday, June 4th, I also hear there's other people who have the same birth date. So for those of you who have the same birthday as mine, happy birthday to you, and I hope you enjoy yours better than mine. And one thing I would like to add, I've been hearing some horrible things going on there. I thought the coronavirus was bad enough, but now I'm hearing about riots and such. So, my advice to you folks is this. Keep yourself safe and secure, and be alert. So, see you later.